Good evening. Now, coming up on a later show, it's going to be a little bit of a surprise, a little bit different. And I'll give you a few clues. It's far out, psychedelic, and I hope you like sitar music, but it's not that far out. So it's a little bit of a clue that will be coming up in a future show. Now, tonight, what we're going to talk about is I'm with Mark Windows, as you can see on the other side of the studio. And what we're going to talk about tonight is that two things, mold them together. There are groups of people that don't want to think, basically, and want other people to think for them. And then there's the group of people like us and the people on our chat room and our followers that think for themselves and are able to think for ourselves. Unfortunately, we are in the minority. And what are we going to do to get the West out of the hole? And there's an old saying, keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer. And what I mean by that is that we have got to look at what is our enemy doing to us. And what they're doing, they're subverting society, ideological subversion. So we've got to be positive and find a way of counter-subverting and possibly doing similar back to them. They don't like it up them, so to speak. And throughout history, for example, during World War II, Zhukov in the Russian army studied German blitzkrieg, and he studied it to the nth degree, really detailed, and then implemented blitzkrieg against the German army, and they wondered what the heck had hit them, and he was just using their techniques back on them. So I think that we hear a lot of negativity and things are getting worse. Yes, they are. UN Agenda 2030 is not that far away. We're kind of sleepwalking into this awful communist dictatorship. But let's be positive about this. What can we do that's positive to, shall we say, send our enemy back with its tail between its legs? So, Mark, what can we do that's positive?
Well, that's a very good question. And I've been sort of looking at this for a very long time. And I started taking on local authorities quite a long time ago. I've won court cases. I've tried to go up against corruption, which is bigger, and that's much more difficult. But on a local level, I think you can actually have some effect. And what I was suggesting in my talk last week was that people start holding these councillors and people who are implementing policies, their local people representative by the council, basically all of the people that are implementing policy locally through these bigger agendas, hold them rigidly to account, but also try and find out as much as you can about them and start going for them like they start going for us. In other words, you have to reverse things. Now, that might sound a bit complex to start with, but it's actually very simple. The psychological subversion tactics that are being used are things like Saul Alinsky's rules for radicals. Look those up on the internet. The only thing in Saul Alinsky's rules for radicals which say these kind of draconian repeaters don't use is humor. So humor's a really good thing. Yes. Humor's a really good thing. Ridicule is a man's best weapon. And naturally, Saul Alinsky says that in the rules for radicals. Ridicule is a man's best weapon. However, the people who are using the Saul Alinsky rules against members of the public have got no sense of humor. So that's quite a good idea. But I think we've got to go a bit deeper than that. That's surface stuff. The problem we've got is that we're so far down the road now in this country that all they have to do is basically sort of tie the top of the noose. And a lot of people don't realize that, because every little thing that's coming in, every kind of change that's happening is all going in one direction. It's to take away all your rights under group consensus. In other words, you agreed to it. Citizens' assemblies, we can talk about those tonight as well. But I've been looking at this, as I said, for quite a long time, and the real purpose of these shows now is to try and get some traction and get some stuff done. But point is, we're not going to be talking about individual strategies on the internet. We'd never do a thing like that. Those have to be basically kept under your hat until you implement them, because you cannot put this stuff out. And also, you can't join groups. You can never join groups. Groups are always infiltrated. This is one of the most infiltrated countries in the whole world. As Demos said in their statement, Demos is a public policy think tank. They said the new democracy will work with a combination of government open infiltration and citizens groups taking direct action. Citizens group meaning Extinction Rebellion. Citizens groups meaning any pressure group that is formed, any pressure group that says it's grassroots, and any pressure group that is being led and has any publicity whatsoever. So in other words, nobody protests in this country. There's no protest allowed. So if you're going to go down that route, I'd forget that. But what would be a good idea would be to start forming your own groups and pressurizing people in the council, pressurize individuals, get strategies together to expose them, because the interface that you have is with these people. Big regions, mega regions are being formed in the UK so that you can't interact with these people, but you're going to have to, or something's going to have to happen, because most people in the country now know that all these estates that are being built on their own doorstep, they're not agreeing to them. They're not agreeing to this legislation that's coming in. Main problem you've got is that you've got 2 or 3 generations of people mentored into this anthropogenic global warming scam, which is basically what the driver for all policy and everything that's coming in. So that's summing up how things are at the moment and what the problems are. So yeah, that's all I'd say on that, Chris. Yeah.
Okay. Well, Kim Lawley's come up with a very good question here. She said, "We need the remedy for the Delphi technique." Which is quite a good question, that.
Yeah, absolutely. What you have to do with the Delphi technique, for anyone who doesn't know, the Delphi technique was invented by the Rand Corporation in 1953. It's a way of gaining group consensus. You know, there's things called citizens' assemblies that you're hearing about on the news. Well, they are implementing them. We've got one in Birmingham. We've had one in Oxford. The councils, idiot councils all over the country, are falling over themselves to declare a climate emergency. I think there's one that hasn't. I think it's around Norfolk. I haven't had a chance to look into that yet. Been very busy ever since I come back from doing the talks over the weekend. I've been stuck into getting the Windows on the World website a bit more kind of organized. So, and also I'm making a film and doing this other stuff. So I'm a little bit behind on some of this stuff. But I was looking at today at a document. It's called the Generating Ideas and Exploring Consensus. It's all about the Delphi technique. Let's explain first how it works. This is how they describe the Delphi technique. This is the people who invented it, the Rand Corporation. Round 0. This is before it even starts, okay? This is before it even starts. Share your ideas about the study topic. In other words, if it's about climate change, anthropogenic climate change is a given. You can't question it, okay? So that's the first thing that's stated. So in other words, you share your ideas about the study. So in other words, a group of idiots come in called facilitators, and they're going to steer you into the end result. So at the beginning, they're going to say, well, what do you feel? What do you want? They're monitoring what you say. They're going to marginalize all the people who are against the consensus which they're trying to impose. So that will be the purpose of this non-round at the beginning, and also to kind of get a psychological view of the group. So basically what's happened in a lot of these big council meetings is you get a facilitator, co-facilitator, then they split you up into groups of 10. Have a look at the Sortition website. Sortition are running out the citizens' assemblies along with Involve and My Society. If you look on the Sortition website, you will see tables full of people, and they've got facilitators on. So what they do, if there's 100 people, they'll split you up into 10, put you on tables, steer you into the outcome, and basically no one really knows what's going on, which helps their kind of roll out of this. So let's get to round 1 now. Let's get to round 1. Assessment. Answer questions and explain your position. They give you some questions, and then they challenge you on them, and they try and knock you down. Round 2, feedback and discussion. Engage with other participants. compare answers, and share perspectives through online discussions. This is where they start steering you pretty heavily. Round 3, revise your original responses based on group feedback and discussion. I'm going to say that again. Revise your original responses based on group feedback and discussion. In other words, it's mob rule now. Everyone's going to turn on you if you're outside the narrative of their opinion, and they're going to start saying, well, you're in the minority. And the way they do this when they go away from these Delphi sessions is that you never know what's happened. They'll bin everything you said anyway. So basically, you're talking about a draconian system which removes all democracy. If people think you're living in a democracy, well, go to another country because you're not living in one here. And point is, the government have allowed this to happen. They've allowed a George Soros-funded company called Involve and Sortition and My Society and Ipsos Mori to take over the narrative of public opinion and basically get the public to accept and agree to things that they would never have let the government impose, because you're agreeing to it. That's what this Delphi is about. So yes, now we get on to how you deal with the Delphi technique. The Delphi technique is actually quite easy to spot, and it's very, very easy if you know what you're doing to stall. But that doesn't mean that you're going to get the outcome you want, because the outcome's already decided. Remember that. All that you can do is you can expose the process. And I have slides on my website which do this. We do not agree with being steered into a predetermined outcome through Delphi technique. We deem this to be an affront to democracy. It's an affront to democracy. You insist on having ballots, individual ballots, and that really does frighten them. However, the only real way of doing this is to tell them all to leave the room and say you do not accept it. You have to do this en masse. You have to have your own people in the room, and you have to have a disruptor on each table. So you're going to have to get organized, because these people are really organized, and that's the way to do it.
I also
You're
have
going to have to take this down yourselves, because there's a few examples of it where these people leave the room. But the point is, you've got to get everyone in that room knowing that there's no choice in this matter. You have to inform them. So if there's a big public meeting, you're going to have to take 5 or 10 agents along there and get on as many tables as you can and tell them what's going on. You're going to have to warn people before they go into the meeting. Get some leaflets printed up. Doesn't cost much, what the Delphi technique is, and say you're being steered and you must ask for individual ballots. Otherwise, this is not a democratic process. Yeah.
Well, I think it's a brilliant idea, and to take a leaf out the book of a chap called Yuri Bezmenov, which I'm sure that everybody in the chat room has heard of and we know all about. He worked for the former KGB in the former Soviet Union, and he defected to the West in 1970. And he did a series of lectures that you can see on the YouTube channels. Please see them. In the early to mid 80s, he did these lectures, and download them, keep them, because I've got a feeling they're not going to be on the YouTube for very long. So Yuri Bezmenov, brilliant. He actually predicted the future on those lectures, and he's spot on, because people that think the Berlin Wall came down and communism come to an end, well, you might as well believe in Bill and Ben the Flower Pot Men. No, communism did not come to an end.
It just rebranded itself into communitarianism now.
Precisely. It just mutated into it. And it was all well planned by the former KGB. And the movers and shakers, because communism is usually run by a handful of families and industrialists. And
it's run by a handful of billionaires. Now, this is very important before we move on, Chris, yeah? The citizens' assemblies are using Chatham House rules, which means that people's names can't be used outside or the information as to where it's come from, but they can quote people. So they're using Chatham House rules, which means it's pretty secretive to start with. So that's a big turn-off. The Oxford Assembly on Climate Change voted for retrofitting houses starting at £25,000 each. You voted for it. Who but a fool would do that? The psychological steering is through Delphi technique. 6 select committees decided on a George Soros-funded organisation. 6 parliamentary select committees. So you've got idiots in there as well. Basically, yes, the Citizens' Assemblies on Climate Change started with Oxford. Let's have a look at some of the questions that they ask, because you need to know about the Delphi. But from the citizens' assemblies, it's going to be on a corporate thing, and it's all going to be the same. They're not going to change what they're doing, because the thing about this and Delphi is it's all the same. It never changes. Currently, national policy does not require that new homes are built to net zero standards. Should the government introduce this standard? And you're going to have to vote yes. So that's one of the questions they're going to ask. The government has already legislated to end the sale of all petrol and diesel cars and vans by 2040. Should the ban on new petrol and diesel vehicles be brought forward to 2030? You're going to be made to vote yes to that. If you're a homeowner, would you be prepared to retrofit your house and bear the costs of average $25,000 per house? Yes, no, and don't know. What about get lost and stop lying to us? Why don't you ruin every single paper? You have to get people in there. So you've got to do it on a mass scale, because this unless people start going against this, you are going to lose everything. You will lose everything. It's coming.
Yeah.
I mean, the way I've been following this for about 20 years, when I saw what was happening where I used to live, the only reason I was right about it is because I'd studied what was happening in California. I'd studied the Delphi technique. I'd studied the way Agenda 21 has been rolled out. Agenda 21, the global action plan, implemented by your local council, globally to local. So those are just some of the things. And I put an article up with some of that stuff. And it's called Citizens Assembly's End of Choice, windowsontheworld.net. And I keep adding to it. Basically, we've done 3 shows on this and the technique, and have a look at it. But this is a template that's being rolled out everywhere, and it's going to be in your town. So if you want to stop it, you're going to have to get organized, because these people are very organized. So back to you, Chris.
Well, that's right. My local council has got its own property company, and I think it was last year or the year before, they're going to take over this vast section of land and develop it for the good of the community, and it's going to be sustainable. And they got an empty shop, which there is a lot of empty shops now, because obviously they're doing away with small business, because communism does not allow individuality. And I went down to this what they call it, citizens open evening, and there's all these smiling people there with badges of hello, and there's loads of maps on the wall. I've probably said this before, but the first thing you learn when you go into architecture is you put a north side on a key plan. That's the first thing you do, you see. So you know where you are, and you put a little map on the corner to show you where you are, you see. And there was no north sign, there was no key in the corner. And I was looking at this, and I got one of these sort of flunkies came over. Hello, can I help you? So I said, yes. I said, where's north and where's the key plan? Oh, there isn't one. I said, well, why isn't there one? And they were so amateurish, these drawings, that it took you ages to work out where they're supposed to be. But it's all, there was a questionnaire, and that questionnaire was exactly what you've just said. It's steering you into a predisposed position. Do you know of homelessness? We need to say it was something about homelessness. So whatever you answer, if you went against what the criteria that the council was putting out, you were a nasty person.
Well, they've got ways of dealing with it. Yeah, I mean, the point is, that they have dragons in there that will shut you down. They have their own plants in the audience, so you have to have your plants in the audience. So you can, some of you can act as citizens, others can shut up and just basically be there for ready when you want to back it up. But you're going to have to get an army together. Basically, that's the way it's going to work, because there's no way of shutting this down. There's no way of fighting it. Absolutely none. So anyone out there who thinks that they can protest against this, forget it. Get a go and join Extinction Rebellion. Might as well, because they're not going to allow any protest against this. It's going to have to be subverted from the inside, and that's what they're scared of. And the thing is that nobody talks about it. And I've been mentioning this stuff for ages. How many people are covering Delphi technique in this country? I don't think there's anybody. I don't think anybody is. The most important thing they've got to talk about, and nobody talks about it, nobody knows about it, because that's the way that this works. So it works on ignorance, really. So all as I can say is that you have to be very dogged and determined about what you're doing. But the point is that you're going to lose everything anyway, so you've got nothing to lose now.
Well, that's right. You've got nothing to lose. So you might as well go for it because, for example, I've said this before. I put in a 25-page document a report on when there was doing objecting to the local building around where I live, and I pointed everything out. But I started humorously and basically taking the mickey out of the council to grab people's attention. And the local press contacted me. I didn't contact them because I don't have anything to do with the press, local or national. And then the national press was alerted of it, and it went in both. And what I've found is that I got more interest from people that were not local than I did that was local. But as I was saying earlier, taking a leaf out of Yuri Bezmenev's book, he said, way ideological subversion works is it's like a punch that's coming towards you. Now, if you stood in front of this punch, that would be a very, very stupid thing to do. It'd knock you out. No. The way ideological subversion works is it grabs the punch, and it's like judo. It pushes the force forward and then smashes it straight into the wall. And the way...
basically, you have to know what you're doing. I mean,
that's right.
It's about the energy of the thing. You have to know what the energy of it is. Therefore, you can actually... But with Delphi technique, you have to be careful how you do it. So you have to keep reiterating what you're going to say. What basically, what there's not the people in the room want a real decision-making process. Now, the point is that there's not enough people, and they know that, to actually kind of go against it in most of these meetings. There's one in, I think it was in Sweden, when the Delphi technique went wrong, when they just shouted at these lot to leave, but it doesn't mean that what they're imposing is going to be overturned. I think the thing is that I would just advise the public to set up small cells in their local area, and you keep it under the radar. Never form a group, never put your head above the parapet as a group. It will be absolutely infiltrated and taken down. So you've got to keep it fairly low key, and then you can kind of pipe up at the right minute. But the point is that in Waltham Forest, about 2,000 people turned up when they closed all the roads at the town hall. They turned up at the town hall, and still nothing happened. You won't reverse this stuff when it's come in, so you might as well have a go. And that's the point. What I see though is huge public apathy, because when I did my talk in Totnes, I mentioned some of this stuff, and I haven't been contacted by anybody. They're all cheering. It's a great idea. Well, no one's interested. So that's what you're up against, overwhelming public apathy with this. And so I think it's about really being very determined with a small group, and small groups can do quite a lot.
Well, that's how Greenpeace started in a way, although it's now been hijacked and, like most things, and infiltrated. But when you're talking about apathy, a perfect example of that is this absolutely ridiculous Peter Sellers film that was made in the early 60s called The Mouse That Roared. And it's about a little state in Europe that decided to declare war on America and then surrender in order to get aid. And there's this sort of group of people in the centre of this place outside the castle, and the king and the queen come out and say, "We're going to attack the United States of America." And everyone says, "Good luck to you, mate," and walks away. No, we want you to do it. Yeah, all right, mate. Yeah, all right. And that's like Britain in a way. It's okay. Or like High Noon, they needed to kill the bandits, and one bloke stands up and does it, but nobody will back him. And this is what happens in this country. For example, where I live, in 2013, they had to call the police in at the local council because so many people were protesting about 65 houses that were going to be built nearby. They're now going to build about 360.
65, nothing. Some people have got 45,000 on their doorstep. I mean, that's right. This is it. It's all relative, you see. So I think the thing is about it is that the template's there. The public need now to prove that they can get the democracy back, or whatever they want to call it. And
democracy. I mean,
there have been things in the past. It's easy to frighten these people. We were talking about it over the weekend when this lawful rebellion thing came in years ago under Article 61 of the Magna Carta. The town hall was seized in Glastonbury, and it absolutely terrified the council. They left. They went upstairs. They didn't know what to do. Then they left the building. The caretaker came in, had a few beers with them, and said, "Look, I've got to get home to see my wife." So they did leave. But the point is this: that if you are serious about this, then do be serious about it. You know, if you're not serious about it, stay at home and watch the telly, because there's not much time left with it anyway.
well,
You know,
that's right.
the re-engineers come in, have a go. You know,
They'll only do something when it's too late. As again, what Eurobizhnov said, he said that's the sad thing. The way subversion has worked. For example, in the 70s, the Soviets, supposing you wanted to take over your local town hall. Now you could go in with all guns blazing, but that wouldn't be a particularly bright idea, because in about 10 minutes it'd be surrounded by the SAS and you'd be carted off to jail.
No. What they did was they just stayed in there and the council left. Point is this, right?
Infiltration.
Point is, it's very, very simple. If there is what looks like overwhelming public opinion, they will buckle. But there's not overwhelming public opinion, so they won't do it. I thought we were to give some kind of tips, really. I mean, there's no point talking about what's happened in the past. We might as well just talk about what's happening now, because I think that it's all been done before, but it's done in a slightly slicker way. You know, I mean, this is what happened when we went to Wales. That's these are the newspaper headlines that came up. Protest planned against talk giving false hope. Well, I was doing was taking a video down there of Neil's Axel Morner and telling them that the sea level rise was fake news, that the place didn't have to be decommissioned, and that the world's leading expert, or one of them, world leading expert in sea levels, was willing to represent them in court. And that's what they did. And they knew. See, the thing is, you're up against the media, you're up against the people who are enforcing this, which is a huge administrative sector. So you've got to realise that there's an administration sector there. It's just being run by the elite at the top, and you're just underneath it. You're nothing. So what you have to do,
we outnumber them, don't we? That's the thing. We numerically, let's face it, if everybody said, but they won't, you can shove your council tax where the sun doesn't shine. Shove it.
Yeah, but I started that out years ago, Chris.
But they won't do it. But people won't stick by you.
No, but the public are too frightened of losing their houses. The other thing is that the public are losing their houses, thousands every week. Estates are being stolen all over the country. And so everyone is being impoverished in this country. We are going to be down to a third world level. And it's not going to be that good here, because everything's going to be controlled by corporations, that Monsanto and all the rest of it. The farming's being destroyed. Everything's being destroyed. So you've got nothing to lose now. That's the point. Might as well have a go. And the point
of return, though. I mean, I've often wondered when you think about it, you can gauge the way things have changed. And I've noticed things have accelerated since the Berlin Wall came down. Before the Berlin Wall.
Yeah, but we're into a different era. I mean, look, in the past 5 years, things have escalated to a point now where it's very, very quick. So the public really don't have time. So they need to start grasping these things fairly quickly and starting to get into these meetings. You know, the point is that the communitarian system is already there. It's with everything the public interact with. So they pay their council tax to these people, and it's up to them now. It's up to them. Are they able to start a mass kind of disobedience campaign, stop paying council tax all over the country? Have they got the balls to do it? Let's see. They didn't when I did it, because I was the only one who ended up doing it. And I went up to bankruptcy, was cutting clamps off my car every other week. But the point is, I just carried on with it. Now, the thing is that there's only a few people who do that. So, I mean, some people can't do it. They're busy. They've got jobs. They're trying to keep things together. But the point is that you've got nothing to lose now. So you might as well do it.
Yeah, I agree with you. Metaphorically, I hasten to add. For example, I do things in a humorous way. I take the mickey out of them and do things ambiguous, so it can be looked at in either way. And if you want to laugh, if you go onto my website, all the W's, Fockham Hall, FOCKHAM, radio, all in one, fockhamhallradio.com. I hasten to add, it hasn't been updated for a couple of years, so it's a little bit creaking at the seams. I've got to do that this weekend. So, but you'll be able to see the report that I put in, and I hope it'll give you a laugh and might give you some ideas on the way you can get back at your council, because it did ruffle a few feathers. And I did get a phone call from the planning office, and they said that they couldn't stop laughing because not all planners are corrupt. And there's quite a few, shall we say, on our side and know what's going on. But they're planners, you know, they get paid to do a job. And I do think that you're right about humour. No, they don't understand humour. Look at the educated twits. Look at this climate change nonsense. What have you got? Gloria, that Thunberg girl who's 17 years, and has she ever smiled because she's got some mental conditions? Oh, well, I think we could.
Well, the point is, the BBC are now doing a series with her in, and that should. I mean, anyone who pays a TV license should really stop now. But the point is that if the public are this stupid, that they've got this mentally ill 17-year-old who knows nothing about anything, who goes to a special needs school when she wants to, and that's the fact, as the Russians call it, political paedophilia. If that's the level of public engagement, you see, the thing is that it's these middle classes, like these people in London, really, they're very overprivileged kind of people. They're privileged at the moment, they won't be for long, but they're the ones going along with all this rubbish, and they're the ones with the most to lose. So it's the ones with most to lose who are going along with it all, and that was the plan. You know, it's kind of very obvious, but yeah, you've got to remember that most of the public are really dumbed down. So if you're going to do this, you actually have to start forming proper groups. And the thing is that it has to be done in a way where you can use ridicule, but also you need to be able to enforce what you are suggesting. I mean, it's up to the public to enforce it. You know, we're talking about civil things here. We're not talking about anything criminal. So unless you cross the line into criminal, you've got nothing to worry about, really.
But also, I mean, by the way, Adrian has just said we all heard your promise to update your website, Chris. Oh, that's what we said. I'll promise. Okay, and Cider Guy said the best way, in my opinion, Chris, laugh at them. I love nothing more than entering a building through the exit and leaving through the entrance. I like that one. But really, I think also looking at things in a different way. For example, the accounts department, my local council, has someone that's, well, I don't think it's human, as a woman there. And if you get through to the accounts, this is regarding the council con, because every year I get the bill through. They have added an extra amount on. So they say, well, you have to pay this much per month, plus at the beginning of the year, you got to pay an extra £16 extra. And I thought, what's that for? So I phoned up and got, Luz. So she said, so I said, well, what's this £16? Hold on. That's correct. Goodbye.
Well, 16 quid's nothing, but the point is that
it's the principle.
Yeah.
But my approach.
The point, what we're talking about here is the public losing their estates and being forced into smart cities. It's going to come. It's coming within the next few years. It's already in place. So we're not talking about 20 quid here and there. We're talking about serious stuff. And the thing is that it will take a big mobilization. So I think that's interesting. The other aspect of it is that the people who need to do it most don't listen to stuff like this. They don't listen to it. So that's a big problem.
They don't understand. Sorry to interrupt you there, Mark, but I've actually found, I put people on the site and they've said, oh, can any handle a couple of minutes? I didn't quite understand it. Think, well,
yeah, but you can't look. The people who are terminally stupid, just don't bother with. Don't waste your breath on them. There isn't any point, because they've never done anything. They never have done. You know, they never will. So you have to actually be more strategic in what you're doing. I mean, the thing is, the best thing to do is try and study strategy. And and realize that the strategies are quite simple to deal with this. It's not a complicated thing. Delphi technique and all this stuff that they're using is very simple to actually counter, and it can be ridiculed. But the point is that it's going to take some numbers, and most people don't go to these council meetings. They're actually held basically, almost in private, because they don't advertise them half the time, and most people don't know when they are. So it's the consultation level that you have to go in. But look, I mean, as far as solutions go, it's kind of up to the public, and ridicule is the best weapon. But you have to start studying how the techniques that these people are using. That's the main point, I think, that the public have no clue how anything works. So if you don't know how anything works, then you're never going to be able to do anything about it. So you have to start learning how it works. But the people that we're on here, we're sort of preaching to the converted. It's kind of up to them to go and do something, and then try and recruit some more, I suppose, and see what happens.
An idea that I use is I never complain. I praise.
Good idea, yeah.
A bit odd, you see. Now, the old bat at the council office, you see, don't complain about her. You praise, and you send a lovely letter in, and you praise them on their computer network, thanking them, saying, isn't it marvelous that you can now speak to a computer, but I'd like to speak to a human. And get to them like that. Just praise all the time, but in a way that's taking the mick. Because this woman, she is so rude. It's frightening. It is. She talks to you as if you're a refugee, and by her name, I won't say her name, but let's say it's X. I'd like to thank you. I'd like to praise the local council on their new automated computer system called Mrs. X. I realise it's not human. Because otherwise it would have some form of human emotions to it. But would it be possible to speak to a human if I can get through? Could you do it, but you could press 5 or something so you get through to a human? Because not everybody wants to speak to a machine. So therefore, you're getting at the old bat, but you're doing it in a very nice way. You're being very polite. You're praising them. And the other thing with the council tax is always write to the top person and sympathize with them. Say it must be terrible competing with the mafia with a protection racket, because let's face it, with the council, the only difference between the protection racket and council tax is that the mafia harm you physically if you don't pay, and the council harm you psychologically if you don't pay. That's the only difference. So you feel sorry for the head of finances, because it must be embarrassing for him doing such a terrible job of extorting money out of people.
Well, most people either paying council tax or not paying it. I mean, it's kind of not even an issue anymore, that, because we're talking about people getting their houses stolen now. So they can steal your house to council tax, but that's a little more difficult. But it's what's coming down quick now with these citizens' assemblies. That's the most important thing. A bit of council tax here and there is nothing now. It's not going to make any difference, because the amount of houses that are being stolen is absolutely astronomical. I'm sure it was about 24,000 in 1 week, but I'll have to check that up. But that we're talking about a big thing here. So that the days of that, the council tax thing, they're gone. I did the council tax thing. It's of no importance anymore. It is if you're paying it and you can't pay, yeah. But the point is that we're talking about something that's coming in much quicker, that is going to basically take everything. So that's the point. Do people know that they don't really have property rights anymore? Do they know that? Because the Royal Courts of Justice do.
That's right. That's right. And why do you think there are so many people on the streets now? I mean, it's frightening, the number of people living on the streets.
Yeah, always things are being covered up. Yeah,
there's a lot of people living in vans now. And it's quite a good idea. You don't live in a house; you live in a van. And what's the government doing? New camper vans. They're putting. It was in the Times. It was something like a 750% tax on them to stop people buying camper vans. And they're going to twig soon that people are buying ordinary vans, which is what I want to do, and convert it into a camper van, but without windows. So when you look at it, it looks like an ordinary van. but the big, and they want to stop people from traveling. And apparently the reason they putting this tax on is to prevent climate change, because they don't want people traveling.
Are you talking about road tax or a tax on a vehicle when you buy it?
No, what it is, it was in the Times, and what it said is that they're putting on the manufacture of new camper vans. So you would have to pay something like a couple of £1,000 more for a new camper van on this new tax, and the larger the van, the more you'd have to pay. And it was a bid to get them off the road because of this global bovine excrement that they're putting out, all this, the global communist system.
Yeah.
And but everything they do like that, it pushes people out of work. And when you look at all these different employment areas, for example, they want to stop people flying. So that is a huge industry. So if there's less planes in the air, then they want less people. So there's even more on the unemployed. And so it goes on. There is nowadays in this country, there's no careers anymore. It's just the only work around is stacking shelves in supermarkets, as far as I can see.
I've just seen that. Yeah, that is adds up to about 1,900 quid on top of a new camper van, 705% increase or something. It says on it. It's just a short article in the Times. I just read it. Yeah, so that tells you, because a lot of people sold up their property and living in camper vans or going abroad, now trying to stop that, you see. So every opportunity to do anything different has been taken away. So what I would say is that I've been doing these talks for 2 years and I haven't seen anybody getting organized. I've met some interesting people who send me interesting stuff, but none of them seem to get organized. So that's a major problem. And the way to do that would be, you have to form small groups and start doing something. Let's see if the public are up to it then.
Well, that's right. But I think that it is very difficult to form these small groups, because when you talk to people, there's so many zombies. Oh,
yeah, we've been through that. What we need to do is kind of, you thought we're like-minded people. We're not talking about the public here. The public have never done anything. The public can't do anything. What do? They moan a bit here and there, but usually about the wrong things. So they don't have the coordinates of what to do because they're not informed on what to do. So if you're not informed on what to do, and you think Greta Thunberg is someone who should be listened to, and you think that CO2 is a threat to mankind, then you've got a problem. You've got a mental health issue. But that's the point. The whole of this agenda is about creating mental health issues in the public, and most of the public are mentally ill now in some way or other. And the idea of it is to exploit that as well, and then you can make money out of that also. So it's a kind of a rollout of things that the public don't know about. Then that's the problem. So you can't say that you talking to people. There's more informed ones than you think actually. But
yeah,
I mean, I'd rather just do 5-minute things on about how to deal with Delphi technique. Do you know what I mean? That's useful. Most of this stuff is talk, and it doesn't get anywhere. And I give information in my talk, which is like we can make it last all day, and it's all invaluable stuff. But who comes along? I mean, do you actually get the people who support the climate change nonsense? No, you don't. You might get the odd one who comes along to protest, like this idiot in Wales, but they actually put out that there was a protest against us when there wasn't. And so the other thing is being able to handle negative publicity and throw it back at them. I mean, I've always managed to keep the moral high ground with stuff, but that's an important thing to do as well. So, I mean, if you go to the website, winnersonworld.net, you'll find lots of stuff going to the articles, and you'll find where I've been having a go at these councils and what they get up to, and how the narrative is controlled. Like, for instance, even within this anti-5G thing, I did an interview with 5G Awareness, John Kitson, and I put out this article last October about the 5G debate hijacked by globalists, which is basically people from the Club of Rome. I don't know if I can see that, but people from the Club of Rome set up this thing through the Club of Budapest, which is linked to the Club of Rome, and it was called World Shift, and they were in with the UN Global Deal for Nature and all the rest of it, and all the UN Action Plan. So that's another thing, that people get scooped up into these issues which are a distraction, or they're actually controlled. They're totally controlled, and that's another problem. And there's enough people who do this conspiracy stuff who argue amongst themselves anyway, So it's not easy. It's not difficult to divide and rule it all. But yeah, the point is, use some humor, but also learn about the Delphi technique. You need to insist on ballots. You need to make sure you're not affiliated to any group, and you make sure that what you're doing is kept quiet until you're ready to execute it. That's about it, really.
And also have a laugh at the fake conspiracies that the establishment pump out, and they are fake, lots of them, moving into a wider sort of area. And let's face it, we are run on a fake consensus. Everything is a fake consensus. That's how you start wars, on a fake consensus. And it's like the old sales technique. Everybody's going to the what's it sale. Well, if everybody's going to the what's it sale, why they bother spending money advertising it? Surely they could reduce the price of the goods. So it's the wolf pack mentality all the time. It's to follow the leader. And you notice this on housing estates. One person has a certain tree in their garden and everybody else follows.
Yeah, we're not talking about them. They're always going to be like that.
Yeah,
we weren't going to talk about them.
Yeah, but you think about it, we're conditioned from an early age. Go to school, wear a uniform, pay attention. What we're telling you is correct. No, it isn't. It's the same old bovine excrement.
I'm going to be doing more of it in the weeks to come. To start putting out very short things on things like the Delphi technique, stuff from my talk as well. If you want to book one, get in touch with winnersontheworld.net. I do the talks now. Just book me. I'll turn up. I can talk to people, tell them what's going on locally and how that they can do something about it. That's a solution. Another solution is listen to my and Chris's shows, put up some good ideas. Listen to, basically anything on Delphi technique and disrupting Delphi technique. It's very, very important. That I would say that in conclusion.
Yeah, I like what Eamon has put here. I was going to go to an arts and crafts centre near me. Be careful of the dream catchers and the people with the drums. I'm only joking. But I fear they'll probably be into the climate nonsense and knee-jerk lefty in general. I could be wrong about that, but I doubt it. Yes, I think you're. I think you. I think you're onto something there, mate. Okay, do you want to wrap this up now, Mark?
I've got to get off and do some stuff. So I think what we could do is get people to actually put in what they want us to talk about on these. If we do more of these Thursdays ones, because I certainly don't want to be sat here going around in circles. And if I've got loads of stuff to do on the website as well. So I think we've got some valuable content so far. But I think what we need now is if the Thursday thing, especially to get some input from people. I'm going to be covering lots of different stuff on the Wednesdays, and I actually struggle to find really innovative things to put on. That's why I don't do many interviews. I've got a few people lined up, but they're very, very strong on what they talk about. I don't want to be sort of putting out stuff where people just do the rounds talking about the same thing and you want to get them on because they have a lot of hits. That's completely pointless. So what I'm interested in really focused information, and I get focused information from people like the talks. I mean, it's worth doing the talks because I pick up stuff. I mean, I've got some stuff to put out from an architect who turn up our talking through, and it's absolutely shocking what they're doing. The draconian legislation that's coming in, even if people want to do a little conversion on a property now, if it's in the country is being taken down. So the farmers need to get together and start doing something and going against this on this rewilding program, and the whole of this kind of rollout of these new communities. You know what I mean? This is all stuff to be attacking, but it can only work if people are kind of working towards a particular end. You can't just protest against it because it's a waste of time. Protest never gets anywhere.
Well, you're right. I mean, walking around with your placards as well, saying we will not be moved. It's never proved any damn thing, has it? Really?
Well, you get given your placard, you get given what to protest about. So that's all sorted anyway, isn't it?
And it always makes me laugh when someone says, what are we against? Against what's this? And everybody else starts shouting, yeah, what are we against? Against this, blah, 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 blah. And it's always, and I notice again, that's
called human Mike, and that came out of Occupy. What do we want? A sustainable future. When do we want it now? Whose streets? Our streets. These were given to you by Soros. These were given you by change agents. Now, the point is that all of these protests are a complete joke. Extinction Rebellion is there to basically destroy Western democracy. They say that in their aims. So what more do you need to know? Extinction Rebellion got you your very own climate change for citizens' assemblies. They brought you them. So that tells you all you need to know about so-called protest.
KT's got an
any talk for farmers. Right. If you know any farmers who want me to talk to them, yeah, I'd love to. I'd love to get down there and do that, because we have got several farmers that we're linked up with. I mean, I don't want it all to be all doom and gloom, but what I'm looking for here is actual solutions. I don't want to be talking about it anymore. Talking's done with, really. I mean, I'm interested in putting information out, but with this sort of stuff, I think it's time for action. And yes, there are a few farmers that we're in touch with, and we tried to organise something on the Somerset levels recently. And the person who was organising it said, oh, I don't think they wanted to open up old wounds. Well, my answer to that is you ain't seen nothing yet. The wounds of the Somerset levels flooding are nothing compared to what's coming. And so that's the point. There's a sort of sense of urgency about it, you know. And yeah, I'd be really interested in doing a talk. Get one organised. I'll turn up. Get one organised. Yeah, get one organised. You know, you need about 20 people, and I'll come along. And I've been doing it, but I don't want to be wasting my time talking to people or preaching to the converted. If you can bring in some people who are genuinely going to do something, yeah, I can give them all the information they need and how it works, and they'll probably know a lot more about the farming side than I will, which would be great. So I can learn from them too.
Great. And also on these Thursday evenings, we're going to have some interesting things. We were sort of wigging it a little bit tonight, and I think over the coming weeks we got some rather exciting projects planned. So we'll just say we can under a hat. So and I think we're going to try and liven it up. And I think we can get so depressed with all this. Sometimes, you know, I think, you know, just leave it alone, because it can really get to you after a while. I know that a friend of mine, Dave Starbuck, I know there's two Dave Starbucks, but this was a magician that lived in the Midlands. And he said sometimes, I just had to walk away from it. He said, I go out of my mind if it was sort of, it's just hammering at you all the time. And pardon me, excuse me. And that's the problem, mate. Pardon me. So I think we will wrap it up before I choke.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a few points being made there, but I think the main thing is that, yes, get to learn about the Delphi technique. You've got to inform as many people about that as possible. Book a talk, certainly. Send people to the stuff that's relating to it on winnersontheworld.net, because I've got absolutely tons of stuff on this there, and it's very clear, a lot of it. This is why we've got to go into a different stage with it now, because the preparation stage has been very long. So I like implementing stuff. We've done stuff over the years. We've been into courts. I've won court cases. I've been up against these people. Councils don't frighten me at all. In fact, I ridicule them regularly. I've ridiculed the change agent who's now in Oxford, Clyde Lokes, and have a look at the article that we put out about citizens' assemblies in the articles section. I'm going to be adding more to it, but we've done 4 shows on citizens' assemblies there, and then you can look at how it all works. All this you have to do is apply yourself a bit, and I think this stuff is absolutely obvious. And remember, that, or don't you may not know, but a friend of mine set up a thing called the Deadbeat Dads, which was all about property being stolen by the child support agency. And it was basically looting property of middle-aged people who'd split up, and they were trying to do it on the back of giving it to their ex-partners. It was an absolute property theft, and it got overturned with no more than 5 people in this country. So that's how effective you can be. And the point is, you have to make sure you're not infiltrated, you have to know who's there, and you have to basically keep the door shut on all of this stuff where they're trying to take you down. And it can be done. The Deadbeat Dads did it. They brought down child support agency services and CMEC. They stopped all that. So that's a big thing, because that was a big property looting thing. I mean, I'm not saying these people aren't still going to try, but the point is that with a very small amount of people, I reckon the whole of this could be taken down, which is why we're dangerous and we're subversives.
Well, I've got an idea, a little suggestion, okay? Supposing now up and down the country, there are people protesting against different things regarding it's generally building of estates. And I know in Kent, you might know more about this. Is it there's an air, what was not an airport, a place where planes landed, airstrip and whatever, not Thanet, somewhere like that, which there's been a lot of protests because they want to build houses on it, etc., and things like that. Now, when the council has these meetings, there's going to be people in there hyped up about these council meetings. What a perfect place to give out your leaflets, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's right. I mean, it takes a bit of organisation, you know, and if you want to do something about it, get on with it. It's all good stuff to get the feedback as well as to how it's gone.
Precisely. You know? I mean, shall we say in 2013, I could have given all the leaflets out and people would have attended your meeting in 2013. There are people that protested a couple of years ago about this huge housing estate was 4. So
I mean, we can have some entertainment here, you know, we can make it entertaining, but I mean, I think tonight we were trying to give you some focused things. So I was very focused on trying to go bang, 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 you know, and I don't want to be referencing the past and stuff like that. I want to start putting out some shorter things as well with just informational. But the weekly shows will be action-packed and full of information. That's the point. Well, I've been doing these talks recently, and they're uploaded a lot of different stuff going on the website, just trying to change the website around. And the stuff that I get given is dynamite, really. So I'm very fortunate in that, because it's the public and the people who listen to me on the shows, or who listen to Winners on the World, who or come to our talks. They're the ones who are supplying me with the information that is filling in all the gaps. Therefore, I can say that my information is bulletproof as far as the facts go. I can actually reinforce it. The fact, well, this is all fact. This has all been given to me. It's all been researched, you know. So, yeah.
Well, that's really, I do believe there is no option but to win in this situation.
Yeah, that's right.
You can't come second. You've got to come first. And I'm on an optimistic thing, because there's 2 things. People will only react when something happens until they see it right in front of their nose. But there are a lot of people waking up, a heck of a lot, more than we actually think. And they're the sort of quiet ones. You probably won't hear much about them. But, you know, if you look around, all right, it's the dimwits that stick out like a sore thumb. But there are some people that you speak to, quite a few, in fact, that go, yes, I agree with you. I can see what's going on. And you come across them, Mark. And most people in the chat room come across them as well. So I am optimistic. And as things start to get even nastier, I think we can hit back, because remember, we outnumber them by a phenomenal amount. And what I'm hoping to do in the next coming weeks is to bring more humor into what we're doing. Cheer people up, because that's a good weapon. Just happiness and humor. Let's really hit them hard with humorous ideas. And I've got a few things in the melting pot. So yeah, good. Tune in next week, because I think we're gonna have a bit of fun, and I think that's pretty fun.
Cider Guys just said, what happened to your Top Nest show? The radio. Well, what happened was we were upstairs and we were extremely tired, and Piers wasn't listening to what I was talking about, and then he was interrupted, and it all got a bit kind of tedious, really. That show. It was only we only did the show because for people who were tuning in at winnersontheworld.net. Therefore, I didn't want it to be left up there because we didn't really get into covering anything of importance. I only leave shows up if the information is dynamite in them. And when I prepared for those shows, I know the information is really powerful and they're worth listening to. That was crossing the line into, well, it went all right, didn't it? I won't have that. So if something's, oh, that went all right, didn't it? No, it's coming down. I only put stuff up there that has got full of information. That's why I want to keep these broadcasts really, really, really top, because we've been talking about what to do and maybe pushing these a bit too much. What we need to do is sit back and get them really tight. And that's what I do with all the rest of the stuff. So, yeah, this is a new thing, a new medium going out on these live streams. It's very powerful and I want to use it to the best of its ability. So, yeah, that's about it from me, yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Mark. And as I say, watch this space because we're going to bring in some humour in, because the last thing we want is people getting depressed, because the enemy has won if you get depressed. And we want to lose. And they're going to lose because we're going to remain happy. And thank you very much.
Positive, yeah.
Everybody in the chat room. I'm sorry if I haven't posted all your comments up. I do apologise. It's a bit difficult talking to Mark, looking at your comments at the same time. But please join us. I think you're on Sunday, aren't you, Mark? Yeah,
Winners on the World is Wednesday, 8 p.m. on here on YouTube. Well, we're still on it. Don't know how long that's going to be, because I know we're having a lot of our stuff. It just doesn't get out there, No, we find it very difficult to get new subscribers, to get people to look at it, because it's quarantined or shadow banned, whatever you want to call it.
I'm finding comments going missing. There was one in particular where there was about 15 comments, and about 12 of them disappeared overnight. And they were really nice comments.
On it. I mean, the narrative is being controlled pretty much. So yeah, Sunday 9 p.m. winnersontheworld.net live. There's a live chat. There's a chat box there. You can get into that. And on Wednesday 8 p.m. I do one of these at Winners on the World, and I'm usually with Eric on a Thursday. So we've got more to come on this. And
That's right.
Yeah, there'll be a lot more.
Happy one next Thursday, so stay tuned.
More historical stuff too. Look out for that. I'm going to be putting up loads of really interesting historical stuff to go along with it. So do support us and book a talk if you want me to come along.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Mark, and thank you everybody in the chat room. And as I say, stay tuned. Thank you. Goodbye.